All right. So, Yuan, thank you so much for joining me today to share your experience and journey of becoming a supervisor. And before we start, perhaps you can just tell us who you are as a coach and also where you're based.
Yeah. Hi, Nick. I'm very honored to be invited to have this interview. I'm based in Beijing. Coaching is my hobby, so I'm not a full-time coach. I'm still working in a company, but it's a foreign company, so that's why I can speak English every day. So that's also why I can get access to this course. I have already more than 1,000 one-to-one coaching hours. So that means basically I have more than 200 hours per year, and in my spare time. My job is in the company. I'm responsible for some strategic program and also commercial management. But hobby as a hobby coaching, I really love it. So I spend a lot of time doing that, but also taking course like this one, this coaching supervision. There are two major type of clients I have in my one-to-one coaching. The first one is about career transition. So there are a lot of clients, they are in their transition period. So they have some challenges either in the current job or they have challenge fall in love with what they are doing. So they want to do something different. Another type is the leaders in the company. So I have some internal clients. Sometimes I also get clients from other companies.
Fascinating. Well, first of all, congratulations. I mean, that for a hobby to build up 1,000 hours of coaching is pretty impressive. I'm really curious, Yuan. My wife is Chinese and
Yeah.
her family are based in Harbin. And when I spoke to my wife's aunt, she had no conception of what coaching is in the way we think of coaching as a non-advisory approach. How are you finding coaching in its current form, governed by the ICF, etc.? How is that landing in China?
I think coaching in China is still in its very young age. I have got to know some very experienced coach in China. They said they have got to know coach maybe more than 10 years ago, but that was in maybe the very beginning wave of foreign companies bring coaching access into their branches in China. I think that's how it was in the beginning, but I don't think there are a lot of coach training available in China. The coach training, I think, is really starting from around 7 or 8 years ago, and then now there are more and more coach training institute or facility available in China. I took the training in 2017 in Beijing, but even at that time, most of the training are still given by foreign teachers. So the course I took was the instructors were the facilitator. They were also from England. There are several MCC. They travel to China every twice a year to give this certification course. But now there are more and more PCC in China who can also give this kind of accreditation course in China. So I think certainly in China, this coaching and coach training are on the ramping up phase.
Yeah, yeah. How fascinating that China's taking coaching when it's already reached a sort of maturity. I mean, clearly that's still a youngish profession, but it's adopting it when it's already got some legs beneath it. Whereas when I started as a coach, coaching was really, really, immature in a sense. So that's fascinating. What led you to become a supervisor?
There are many reasons. I think first of all is because I already got PCC back in 2020. So I was wondering after I got PCC, what additional growth I can take and what is the source. So I have a friend, but also she's also a coach in the same cohort. And she had some training background in psychological therapist. And so she said it's quite common in her in therapy community. It's a very common practice to get supervision once in a while. So I was a little bit curious what supervision is. So that's the first reason. So I got this concept, so I want to know what it is. And then I Googled it around. So that's one of the reasons I found ICCS. And also I think in your video, because you have an introduction video explaining what is the course, what is supervision. I think that's a very good video. So there's one thing I think that's really catch me, which is you said the supervision learning is also kind of provide rocket fuel to coaches, because that's what exactly why I was after. I want to accelerate, but also improve my practice in coaching. So I think that's the second reason. I think the third reason is I think to broaden my portfolio. Although I'm not doing full-time coaching, I'm not doing coach training, giving training to others, but I think that certainly could be one of the possibility if one day I decided to spend more time, devote more of myself into this, then this could be very helpful and also a portfolio in addition to training. So I think that's another reason to prepare myself for the future. So it's kind of an investment.
Yeah, that's very nice. It's interesting. One of the things I'm noticing from these conversations is a lot of people come into supervision training primarily for their own next step, for their own growth. And then as they go through supervision training, they become attracted to, oh, this is the work I can do with coaches. And I'm sort of curious, how is that showing up in your own world? Are you beginning to supervise coaches in the workplace? How are you using it?
I think there are two things I can say. One is because in order to get the final accreditation, there's a recommendation or a requirement to get 25 hours of supervision, right? So that's an invitation for me. So I think that because that was beginning of this year, so I posted a small ad in the social media that who want to be a supervisee or take this practice with me. So that was the very preliminary practice I was doing on supervision. So there are several coaches. They sign up, and then we had this one-on-one supervision relationship, because I have challenge to find time for a group of people. I don't want to do this so big in the beginning, so I take a very small step to try out with them. Because some of them are young coaches in the very early stages. Some of them are also quite experienced. Value them because they trust in me. At least some of them are also executive coaches. So in some of the conversation, we talk about different things. For example, how do they feel? How do they practice with executive? And because if you do a life coach or if you are doing executive coach, the conversation, the content, the focus, even the way you interact with your client are quite different. I think that also broaden myself, because I have my own style of coaching. They have their style. So during the practice, I was trying to adapt. For example, some coaches, they have a very strong visual aided style, or some coaches, they have a lot of metaphor as a tool. So I will check with them, because that's one of the content in the contracting part, right? Because we want to agree with supervisee what's your comfortable approach during supervision. So I think that's also the stretch part for me, because if I only do my own style, that may not be the best approach for him or her. So after this contracting, I will also trying to do some of them approach on themselves. I think that's kind of an interesting mirror, because when I do the similar approach to them, they can also have a feeling or sense of, if they do this approach to their client, how does it feel? I think that's a very interesting experience. And then also in middle of this year, because I was on a program to support some NGO. So there are some young leaders in the program. They support students in the rural area, and then there is a collaboration between a coach community and this NGO. So I was one of the team member of a small group of coaches. So there was a requirement and a recommendation to have supervision within the group once in a while. So I was also doing some of the supervision practice during this group gathering. So make sure everyone we support each other, because supportive is also one of the very important function in supervision. So that's also, I think that's the second chance I practice supervision in this year. I think that's so far the things I have tried in this year after I finished the course.
Yeah, very interesting. Wow, I mean, it's fascinating that you become a supervisor so early in the stage of coaching in China, because it could end up with you being the preeminent supervisor of China. Who knows? You could be, the top supervisor, which would be great for you. I'm curious, given that you came to supervision as an area for growth, what did you feel? Where did you feel you grew as a coach? What skills or what mindset changes happened for you over the course of the last 9 months or so?
I think there are a lot of things, because this is really a long program, span over eight months. So it took me some while today to really look back the notes I have taken during the course, what I have learned in the 8 months. I think if we begin with the group, it's a very diversified group. So it's not only about what I learned from the classes and the program. There's a lot of things I learned from my cohort members, because they are from different countries, and they have different long and short experience in coaching and supervision, and also they have different background. I think that's one of the hidden value in the course, and there's a lot in it, because I think this is very true in this type of learning, and you learn from each other, not only from the teacher. Because there are a lot of practice. In the practice, we take our own real coaching practice into the conversation to do reflective discussion. So we have classmates with educational background who teach coaching in university, and we have HR professionals. We have people working in the healthcare industry, in the pharmacy industry. So every people are very different. Gender, age, background. So although we are all call ourselves coaches, but I can feel we are facing very different or very diversified clients. And then also, very interestingly, they are very successful entrepreneurs also in the class. So I would admire and I would look up to them. But in the conversation, which is a very deep conversation, you can also really see how people are vulnerable. No matter he or she is a CEO of a small company, or how successful he or she looks to be, but I think that's a very safe and genuine place. And I think that's the first thing. No matter what we are learning, but this place has its value. And then from what I've learned from, if we say knowledge point of view, I think that's very extensive. One of the very unique feature of this course compared to my initial co-training, I think there has been a lot of reading material. It's kind of a mixed feeling because it's very good. It's really broadened my knowledge, because it's the first time I realized there are so many studies and publications on coaching itself, on supervision itself. So there are a lot of big names. After the course, I got to know these are the big names in this industry. So I really enjoy the reading, but of course the reading can be very time consuming. I think that's the really something I really value, because in my the beginning of the accreditation as a coach, most of the class we don't have reading material, because it could be difficult to find those material in Chinese, because I was taking the course. A lot of cohort they are not so good at English, so it will be a problem if we are given extensive reading material in English. And then the third thing I want to mention is really from a knowledge or professional framework point of view. Now I think I understand much more about the foundation of coaching and supervision. For example, the 7I model, the 7 conversation and also the normative, the 3 tip. That's the thing you mentioned a lot. I think those things are sometimes we do coaching in a way we believe that's the way to do it, but without understanding what we are doing it, without understanding or without sensing when we are shifting from normative to formative, without knowing that. But with those foundation of knowledge, I think something we used to be doing only as a habit, now we really can sense we are doing it, and that's the way. I have a pattern maybe, and also I can say to myself, you have doing this too much, and maybe in this session, so maybe you should try from shifting from one way of conversation to another way, and then you have a balance of maybe you used to be too soft. You think you are supportive, but on the other hand, from a client point of view, they might feel they haven't got enough challenge, or they haven't got enough brutal truth about whether they are doing good or in the right way. So I think that's something I really like from the course, those foundations. So I think from academia point of view, it improves a lot.
Yeah, that's really great. Thanks, Yuan. Is there anything else, my final question to you really, is there anything else you'd like to share around the experience of becoming a supervisor or how you're using it in the world before we close off?
I think that's a very early stage for me. So like I just said, I have a feeling that in the future that might be one of my portfolio. But how I want to be a supervisor, or either supervisor is my key portfolio or a supplementary portfolio, that I think it's so far I don't have an answer yet. But I'm also exploring because currently most of the client comes from a online platform. So I know one of the leading coach and entrepreneur in China who has founded that platform. That's the platform I get access to my client. Because with that platform, I don't need to do a lot of marketing and building my own website, that kind of thing, because itself is social media. So the next step, or next potential step is I'm also talking with this CEO. She has a plan in the near future to develop some training course to the to-be coaches, because this platform already has gathered more than 200 coaches in China. And then when we deliver coaches, and because she's also doing a lot of training to individuals, but also giving the training as a service to a lot of companies, both foreign companies, but also domestic companies. And in those trainings and in those one-to-one coaches, a lot of the coach client, the coachee, and a lot of the client in the company, they also get interest in, can I be trained as a coach, or can I be trained as a coach and then the leader, right? So that's something the CEO, the founder, is considering. So we have been talking about that plan. So if that plan materializes, there's a possibility that I can also deliver some of the training. But in the meantime, to give the student, the trainees, a possibility to get supervision in the meantime. So that's, I think, as a full portfolio also is very promising, and I think I like that vision. So I think that's something I will bear with me. Maybe not so mature today, but maybe in the future, sometime that will be realized. Well, that's, I think, to answer your question.
Yeah, no, I'd love to talk to you again when that's happened. I will say this as well, that actually within my own coaching school, every single trainer is a qualified supervisor. And I think there's something really important that supervision as a skill brings to the art of training too. It gives you a wider lens of what's going on in the room than simply focusing on individuals. So I think that would be a benefit for you as well. Yuan, thank you so much for taking the time to share with me your journey. I'm really excited for you, and good luck with all of your next moves. And of course, I know you don't celebrate Christmas in China per se, but nonetheless, happy festive season.
Yeah, same to you. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
Thank you so much.